really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
That's why it's really important to have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and gentlemen of all ages. We're happy to be with you for another Sunday episode, and this one in particular is a bit of a special one because it's Mother's Day. So, first and foremost, happy Mother's Day to my mother and everyone else's mothers and all the wonderful people in the chat that also fall into that category. We appreciate all you guys showing up for this show, and we hope to make it a little bit extra special for you with a fun Sunday episode. Speaking of which, I got my co-host for the evening, Jay. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on, you filthy fucking degenerates? Love to be here on the Sunday show as always, and you know it's special because we put special in the title, so that's how you know it's special. Special ed, actually, not just for Mother's Day, but you know everything is going absolutely fantastic. Got a lot of projects on the backlog, but you know, as I always say, I'd rather have work to do than no work at all. So I'm pretty happy about that because that means I got more things to sell to accumulate more of that dry powder. Because if my thesis is correct, then the dip is pretty much over, and we are going to be taking off here pretty soon, which we'll go over during the TA segment. But I'm doing fantastic. Caught a little bit of the Pulse Chain conference over this weekend, and I was just giving Will and Z and the rest of the team their daps because they did an absolutely fantastic job representing DRT over there at the Pulse Chain conference. So thank you, folks, for those of you who tuned in and for those of you who will be catching the replay. Other than that, it's been a fantastic week for crypto. We've got a lot of juicy news to go over with you folks today. In particular, there has been a lot of shenanigans going on with crypto and over there at Congress. So that's going to be basically the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be going on during this Sunday episode. But more of that in a bit. My good buddies, Will and Nate, how you folks doing, man? Good to see you.
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen, boys and
Aloha.
girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels. It's a good day today. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Happy Mother's Day to my grandparents. Happy Mother's Day to all those fantastic mothers out there. I'm ready to get into it and then get back to the Pulse Chain conference, which is going on right now. If you guys are not aware, make sure you go and give them a like, comment, subscribe. I just joined Maddie's channel over there. It's like $10 to be a crab. $10 a month to be a crab in his little thing, and they've got like the whole crab, dolphin, shark, whale, all those little fun sea creature leagues. So that's super fun. I'm stoked to get into this conversation. Nate, how are you doing, broski?
I'm doing pretty good. I found a cheat code with this new iBurn launching thing, and it's very interesting. Let's just put it this way: I've tripled the amount of pulse that I originally put in. yeah, Z, in that amount of time. That's how crazy this is being right now.
For the folks at home, Nate started doing this like 20 minutes ago.
Literally. And yeah, I'm almost a full 10 million up. Oh man, this is actually kind of
nice, bro. What is it that you're doing for the folks at home who have never seen or heard of iBurn before?
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna share my screen here because you guys have to see this. This is actually
we gotta see this, bro. You can't drop that on the stream and then not show the folks what the fuck you're doing.
Okay, so I rearranged these. What did I do here? It was not this one. It was this one here, right? Okay, so iBurn, you max it out, right? And then you sell into Pulse, and then what you do is you go and you use that Pulse. So that's going to be like 750, let's just say, right? So 750 has 102 mini. All right, and so then what I'm gonna get here for like that amount is how many ICOSA? 247, right?
Yeah.
247. All right, so then I go here. What I say? 227.
Uh-huh.
Okay, in here, and that's how many more I burn I get. Okay.
Yep.
And where did I start with the I burn? Here. So then I get more of that I burn. And see, here's the big thing. This is how much pulse I would have to pay. Okay.
Yeah.
But if this is the amount of pulse that I'm paying here, right? Then if I go and I input that number, which is 7427, right? 7427. Now I've got, oh, fuck. But I'm going to have more pulse, or at least about as much pulse as I've gotten here. Or, no, it'll be more. I'm stupid. But there we go. Bam.
And which ICOSA is this? Is this the Ethereum ICOSA or is this
Yep, this is the Ethereum. I was going to check the P ICOSA as well, but Ethereum ICOSA is this is really fucking cool, man.
Okay, so you're arbitraging, you're arbing basically.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
He's using one of the intended / built-in features to the iBurn protocol, which, by the way, shout out to Gifford, Crypto Kool-Aid, RG3, and the rest of the Gifford Tech team out there. I think this protocol launched about 5 hours ago. The front end looks solid. It looks like it's working beautifully. And if you are interested in the gift chart as a result of the buy and burn that this promulgates, you will notice that there is a massive green candle on volume and also in price. So everything is looking like it's working as intended, and seems like there's a decent arbitrage opportunity still to this right now, as Nate is showing us. So
I'm literally doing
Man is doing this live, bro. He's doing this shit live.
That is yes.
Yeah, no,
There
like
you
I'm
go.
not missing on this opportunity, bro. Like, holy crap! And then this
Yeah.
one, just 5 million. this is badass. I ain't even gonna lie, man.
That is super cool, bro.
It's not too shabby at all. Awesome. Are we done with our interests? Because we have a few chats that I want to shout out already. Excellent. This is producer, if you don't mind. Let's get over to the community, see who's in here today. Centurion54X with the most important message of the day. Call your mom, you degens. Do that. If you haven't already, you should probably take care of it very soon. I'm not telling you to leave the stream, but maybe pause it or put it on mute and call your mom. Alrighty, after that, we got 2 more folks. We got Brown, aka Farmer J. He says, I'm special. No comment.
Special ed.
Anyways, also got Hex Huddle Pulse. He says, you're crossing streams of the Pulse Chain Conference. LOL streams. Yes, we are definitely crossing streams right now. Shoot, I think Crypto Coffee was just on there. I don't know who's going right now. Part of me wants to say it's, it might be Axis, but I don't know for certain. I will check our schedule real quick. The Pulse Chain Conference is going to be going on for today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, they're going to be closing it out. Let's see. Right now, we should be looking at a talk from Papa Boner.
That's one hell of a name, man.
And KDP Crypto. And then after that, we got 2 more talks. One of them is donors. And then after that, we are getting into a panel with a few OG Hexkins and Moongangers. We got Corey Geary, Money Talk Dane, Hexfire.io, aka Crispy Man himself, and Hex Monkey 369, an OG in the Moongang for sure. So keep it going on over there. And I hear that the social tonight is open to all folks, and I keep getting sent the StreamYard links to hop in the green room at some point. So, you know, I might just have to take them up on that.
Kick ass,
With that
bro.
being said, gentlemen, any last comments before we hit into TA?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, man.
Alrighty.
My
Jay,
favorite part
if
of the show.
True. Jay, if you don't mind pulling up your charts and we can chat about what's going on. I have one macro news event that I wanted to highlight because this is what has been leading our discussion about the possibility of a continued 60-day cycle. However, this discussion was like 3 or 4 days ago, which means that the candles since then have really much been disproving that theory. That's what we got.
Yeah. When Z said pull up your chart, I heard him say pull up your shirt. I'm like, Z, the gang's gonna have to pay for that, man. The chat's gonna have to pay for that for me to do that, bro.
We also have Tam Tam in the house. She says, hey fam, we will say
What
hey,
up, Tam? Happy
and
Mother's Day, Tam. Good to see you
happy
here.
Mother's Day.
All right, let me go ahead and pull up my Bitcoin chart here for you folks. Here we go. Okay. So For those of you who are not part of the Telegram, this is going to be news, but I covered a whole bunch of this during our emergency stream on Tuesday, which is why I tell you guys to go ahead and jump in that Telegram, because if you want to catch the alpha early, that means you're in the Telegram, because they're the ones who get my technical analysis before the YouTube does on Sunday. So we are currently on day number, let me adjust this because we are now on day number, hold up, is that correct? There we go. We are now on day number 54 of the 60-day cycle. So like I mentioned, for those of you who are in the Telegram, this would be a bit of a review for you. We are going to go over some new information, but we are playing with two potential 60-day scenarios here, right? The first scenario is the least likely one, right? Which is day number 54. And the reason why I say that's very unlikely is because if the Bears were to push us down into a new cycle low, they would have to do it within this next week. Otherwise, we would be considering an extended 60-day cycle, which at the current moment, which I will go over in a little bit, seems very unlikely. What is more likely, on the other hand, is that we are currently in a new 60-day cycle, and we have a high on day 5. Now, here are the reasons why I think that this 54-day cycle is a little bit more unlikely and my least preferred scenario. Number one, if you notice, since we started the slide in price after the all-time high on, when was this exactly? This was on the 14th of March of this year, right? After the all-time high on the 14th of March, we started this downward sloping trend for Bitcoin. And if you notice that every consecutive new local low that Bitcoin has made, that has been accompanied by a decrease in sell volume as well, right? As we got new lows in price, the sell volume has been decreasing slowly but surely, right? And if I were to be bearish and think we're going to head down to somewhere around $50,000 on Bitcoin, which some analysts are still calling for, I would expect the volume candles for these new local lows to match. And that's not what has been happening. So that's number one. We might have new local lows, but the volume candles, the sell volume candles, are not there to match. Now, next, let me bring up my RSI chart here for you folks. Right? If you notice that when we got that cycle low, the RSI bottomed to, this is around 34. Now, the reason why this is significant is that for the entirety of our bull market, right? The current bull market, what you will notice is that every single time that the RSI, which is a momentum indicator that we like to track here, among others, every single time the RSI has gone down to about this low 30s level or lower, a shift in momentum to the upside was soon to follow, right? If we go back a bit here, right, this was at the very beginning of this year, right? This was around the third week of January. This was when sentiment was probably at its lowest and the market was in significant fear. And the reason for that was because we had that sell the news event after the ETFs were released around, I think it was the 11th of January when the Bitcoin ETFs were released. It was a sell the news event, which we pretty much expected. And people obviously started to panic. They're like, oh my God, that's it. The ETFs were priced in. Nobody gave a fuck. And everybody was selling into the purses of BlackRock, of Fidelity, and MicroStrategy because these guys just bought up all of that sell volume, right, and added to their bags. So you notice that during that time, the RSI bottomed at around the 30s again, right? And what happened soon after? It was a shift in momentum to the upside all the way into new all-time highs. Let's go back a bit further. Right here, this was during our macro wave 2. right? At the very end of the macro wave 2, right? Remember, if you guys were remembering the analysis back then, this was a classic flat pattern, right? We called this on the show, classic flat pattern, terminating here around the tail end of August. And RSI hit a very low number. It went below 20, actually. This was around 19. And what happened? A shift in momentum to the upside was soon to follow, and so on and so forth. Going back all the way here, this was March of 23, just close to the beginning of the bull market. RSI bottomed at around 29, shift of momentum soon to follow, and then all the way back to the start of the bull market when RSI bottomed here at around 25, shift in momentum to the upside, right? And so even though we always encourage folks to not use a singular indicator to dictate their trades, it would be a bit foolish to not consider the RSI, especially when it has been extremely consistent at predicting when the market is starting to shift from a fear selling sentiment into a greed buying sentiment, right? And obviously, we're going to use that in combination with things like the volume that we discussed earlier, right? The new local lows are not being matched with a significantly higher selling volume, right? Those selling volume is starting to decrease. Here's another thing. I mentioned the fear and greed. And the reason why that is significant is actually, let me go ahead and bring up the fear and greed index here really quickly. Fear, and here we go. So here is the fear and greed index. We are currently at 57 in greed. Now, earlier during this month, right, we bottomed. This was on the 2nd of May. We bottomed at 43. So the reason why this is significant is because the market had not been in fear for basically the overwhelming majority of 2024. I have to expand this chart to about 1 year to find that the last time we were in fear was right. The last time we were around this 40 level was right here in the 3rd week of January, right at the very bottom of that sentiment, right? When everybody thought that the ETFs were priced in and that was it for Bitcoin before we shot up to new all-time highs, right? So you notice that the overwhelming majority of 2024 was spent in greed, topping out at 90. This was around the 3rd of March, just before new all-time highs, right? And so the sentiment had reset back down into fear, right? We went below that neutral 50s level and finally broke down into fear once again, right? And so that's signifying to me, once the market is in fear, that is usually when a shift in momentum is going to start to occur, especially when you take into consideration the context of the current market, right? We are in a bull market. And so usually, if the market is in consistent fear on a bear market, you'd be quick to buy and quick to sell, right? In this case, when the market shifts back into fear, what you want is that's when you start deploying. Maybe you took some profits in March and in April. That's when you start deploying a little bit heavier back into the market, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any altcoins that you might have conviction in, right? Because that's when usually a shift in momentum is soon to follow, especially when you consider all of the other factors that we've already talked about prior. Finally, the last thing that I want to mention, and this is I would say that this is a combination of a sentiment and a technical thing, right? Because you could chart basically anything. As you can see, I'm charting an emotion, fear and greed, right here in front of you. So the other thing that I would like to bring to your attention, right, that is signifying to me that we are in a pivot point within the market. Mrs. Producer, if you could, I am going to switch over to a different tab. This is the open interest for Bitcoin. This is the combined open interest for Bitcoin, right? This is taken into consideration the major centralized exchanges, right? Binance, KuCoin, BitMEX, what have you. And the reason why I bring up open interest is because if you guys have been watching consistently, you know that the open interest is a proxy for how degenerate people are being in the market, right? It means they're taking a lot of leverage, right? Whether that's longs or shorts, this is a combination of the amount of leverage people are taking within the market. And the reason why that is significant is the open interest reached new all-time highs February of this year. And look how much it shot up as Bitcoin started ratcheting up towards all-time highs, right? The price of Bitcoin here in yellow, as it reached that $73,500 all-time high, you notice that open interest also reached an all-time high of about $36 billion, right? And it kept climbing even though we were already starting to see bearish divergence on the chart. And you notice that once we hit that fear level on the fear and greed index at 43, the open interest also dropped precipitously, right? It bottomed out here at about, what is this? $24 billion, right? $24.5 billion, right? And so not only was the market in significant fear, people were less degenerate, meaning they were taking less leverage, which is the reason why that open interest number dropped so precipitously, right? So you have to, taking all of those things into consideration, even though we're making new local lows for Bitcoin's price, the sell volume is not matching. The RSI bottomed out around 30, which signifies a shift in momentum that's soon to follow after, taking into consideration the past history of the current bull market. Open interest dropped precipitously. Fear and greed finally back into fear. So all of those things taking into consideration is telling me that the market is shifting momentum slowly but surely, which is why, me personally, I have started dollar cost averaging a lot heavier and a lot faster into these assets that I have strong conviction in. Now, switching back into the charts, right? I'm going to obviously give you guys the bearish and the bullish price predictions, because that's what everybody is.
Yeah, you need to look at Brown's comment.
What is Brown's comment? How much for the shirtless analyst? At least 4 figures, Brown. At least 4 figures. At least 4 figures. At least $6,900. $6,942. Okay, so here we are on the Bitcoin chart. This is over on my deck screener because this is where I have all of my nice indicators, so I don't show you guys a messy chart on TradingView. If the bears were to push the price down back below $60,000, they are going to come up against considerable support, right? The 111-day moving average, which, if you remember, this has served as a pretty strong support over the course of our bull market, right? Once we hit that local low of about $56,500, that's during that time, that's where the 111-day was sitting, right? So it's moved up since then. But you notice the price wicked below the 111 and was bought right back up and closed above it, right? So the 111 is currently sitting at around basically $60,000, right? And so if the bears were going to try to push down Bitcoin below 60,000, they're going to have to contend not only with the psychological support of $60,000, right? But that 111-day moving average once again. Further, if you go onto the weekly chart, what you'll see here, if I turn on the Bollinger Bands, the Bollinger Bands, the 20-week moving average is now sitting at $57,500, right? And so if the bears were to somehow break past 60K once again, then that 20-week moving average is going to serve as your next level of considerable support for Bitcoin. And what have I said consistently ever since the start of this bull market, right? Back when we were still at $30,000. Sorry, when we were hovering around 40 and people were calling, oh, Bitcoin's going to drop below $40,000 all the way back down to 30. And I was like, guys, the 20-week moving average is sitting at around $35,000. And we are at the start of the macro wave 3. We are not going to close below the 20-week moving average until probably the macro wave 4 or the next bear market. And I maintain that thesis, which means since the 20-week moving average is now at 57,000, let me get an exact, 57,500, I will hold strong to my thesis and say that the bears are not going to be able to push us down below the 20-week moving average at 57.5, right? If they were to somehow, we always have to give the bears their due. If they were to somehow do so, then the next area of considerable support for Bitcoin is going to be around this purple box of support, right? If you notice that we spent about a week or so consolidating around this price range between $50,000 and $53,000, right? And so if the bears were to somehow break past those key levels of support, then the price that I'm looking for Bitcoin to head back down is between the $53,000 and $50,000 area. Is it likely? I personally don't think so because of all of the aforementioned reasons. But like I always say, we have to give the bears their due. Now, bullish case, what I think is more likely to happen for Bitcoin over the span of the next few weeks to months. Now, that's not to say that price can't spend some time consolidating around this $60,000, $65,000 range, right? We could spend the rest of May crabbing sideways, boring people to death, and forcing more people to capitulate before we start finally moving to the upside, right? That's also a possibility. But on the short term, what I think Bitcoin is going to do, right, if this is indeed the start of our next impulse, what I expect Bitcoin to do is, I think, that if we take a fib retracement here, right, if this is indeed the next, the wave one of the next 5-wave impulse for Bitcoin, then I think we, oh, look at that, hit the 0.5 fib, bouncing around between the 0.5 and the 0.382. I think we probably go as low as the 618 and the 786 fib here, right, which sits at between 59,200 and 57,600, just right where that 20-week moving average is sitting, right? So we have some confluence of variables there. A major fib, which is the 786, and your 20-week moving average sitting at around $57,500. Okay? So I think if this is indeed the start of our next impulse, you're probably going to see Bitcoin come down, if we are still going to be coming down in price, somewhere between 60 and 57.5, right? And if we do get back those back down to those low prices, then that is your green light to start dollar cost averaging even heavier into those assets that you have a strong conviction in. Now, upside potentials for the remainder of this macro wave 3. The next goal for Bitcoin, in order to continue its bullish trend, if you take a fib pull here from our all-time high to our current cycle low, what you want Bitcoin to start, what you want to see from Bitcoin is you want to see Bitcoin recover well, you'd want it to recover its current cycle high, right? But this level, the 618 level at $66,000, that is your next target. And then finally, the 786 at around $69,000, right? You recover the 618 and the 786, and you basically don't give the bears much of a chance to bring the price back down to 50,000, right? The more time we spend around this $65,000 area, and dare I say the $69,000 area, if we were able to reclaim the 618 and the 786 levels, the less likely it is for the bears to have a chance at pushing the price back down below 60, let alone back down to $50,000, right? Now, in terms of where can we expect price to go for the remainder of this year, right? If you notice here, I have the green Roman numerals. That is basically the Elliott wave count in a larger degree. And we are currently in the macro wave 3, and we have a wave 1 of 3, 2, 3, 4 of 3 potentially in. And so we are waiting for the next impulse to complete the wave 5 of 3 before we head into the larger degree correction wave 4. So what can we potentially expect for Bitcoin to in terms of price for the top of this macro wave 3? Well, very simple. You take a fib extension from the start of your wave 2, from the end of your wave 2 to the top, so that all-time high, and pull it down to our local low And what I expect Bitcoin to hit is somewhere in between this 382, this $85,000 area, to about $110,000. Now, a very common extension is the 786, right, for that wave 5. However, the reason why, unless my count is wrong, the reason why I don't think we get to the 786 area of $135,000 for Bitcoin this year, the reason why I think that's unlikely, unless my count is wrong, is because of the ratios, right? As it currently stands, the ratio, let me turn off these moving averages here, right? If we take our price tool and take it from the start of that wave 1 of 3 to the top, right? That's about a 97, actually it's a bit greater, sorry. That's about a 98% gain, right? Now, from the bottom of your wave 2 of 3 to your wave 3 of 3, that's about a 96% gain. Usually what we expect is this wave 3 to be the most impulsive. However, currently as it stands, your wave 1 is a bit more impulsive than your wave 3, which means your wave 3, the rule that we have that we cannot break, your wave 3 cannot be the shortest wave, right? And so wave 5 cannot be greater than your wave 3, which means if we take our price tool and pull it up about 97%, you notice that tops out at about $110,000, right? That is one of the key rules of Elliott wave. The wave 3 cannot be your shortest in terms of the magnitude and price, right? And so that means it cannot, like we can't possibly head higher than $110,000 unless, of course, my count is wrong, which I don't think it is. Take that with a grain of salt. DYOR. So my expectations for Bitcoin heading into late 2024, Q3, Q4, anywhere between $85,000 to 110 if we get really bullish. So that is all I have for Bitcoin. My God, that was a lot more TA than I usually do. But got to give you guys the alpha, right? So do we have any questions, comments, concerns from the panel?
Yeah, Jay, I wanted to get your idea on something that we were kicking around in the Telegram earlier today. Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, I have a screen share as well. Haha. So one of the things that I was postulating earlier this week was that we have our CPI report coming out on Wednesday. That is May 15th. So this was formulated on Thursday and Friday. And what I was looking at is there's a possibility that the 60-day cycle could run out to like 56 days. I want to say, I was listening to Charlie's stream on Cultivate Crypto, and he mentioned that Bob Lucas himself said that there's a high possibility of a slightly less than 60-day cycle. And that got me thinking, if that's the case, then that means that there might have to be some sort of macro news event coming out. Because previously we've had other stuff like Iran-Israel stuff going on. And then we also had bad CPI numbers from the month prior. So I was thinking that if we have another subpar CPI report come out on Wednesday, there's a strong possibility that it could negatively impact the markets at whole and also the Bitcoin market, because right now we're actually pretty correlated to the S&P 500, if you ask me. And also at the same time, if we look at our daily moving averages, these are the lines that I have here. This gold line down here is our 200-day moving average. This red line is our 111-day moving average. The blue line is actually our 20-day moving average, and our purple line is the 50-day moving average. This all is kind of pointing towards this converging point where you might get some sort of action. And it looks like we bounced off 50 here. We bounced off 50 again. And now we're coming down to the 111-day moving average, which we crossed over shortly, then rebounded, and we're about to come into contact with again.
Yep.
So the reason that I bring up the daily moving averages is because they're a good indicator of momentum on different time frames. So obviously 20-day is the shortest, so that is your short-term momentum. 50-day is getting towards that medium term. 111-day is out towards that long-ish term, and then 200 is definitely your long-term momentum. So right now we're kind of seeing some convergence here. I have this purple box down here because I thought that this might be one of the areas that we could possibly dip all the way down to. Maybe just a wick, but the reason that I said that is because I think there is significant support at about $52,500 on Bitcoin.
Mhm.
And if we were going to stop at an area, that's a decent area to stop at. So I mentioned this before, which is that this theory was cooked up on Thursday and Friday, aka these two candles right here. And since then, we've had two pretty decent daily closes, not bleeding off too much more, which is actually going against this theory, which leads me to more likely believe that the 60-day cycle is in when we had our 42-day cycle, and it's not going to be quite this super down 56-day cycle that was proposed previously. So that's kind of the stuff that I was tracking over here. Does that make sense, Jay? Or do you have any holes to poke in this?
Yes, it certainly does. And before I did this detailed analysis over the past few days, I was still playing around with that scenario, right? But when I was taking a look at all of the other variables telling me that the shift in the momentum was slowly but surely happening, I was like, look, obviously we're only playing with probabilities, but I'm always going to lean on the side of, okay, where are the probabilities the highest, right? And all of the indicators that at least I'm personally tracking tell me that the shift in momentum, sentiment, open interest, RSI, sell volume, key fibs hit, key supports levels hit, all of those things are telling me that we're shifting back into a bullish momentum, right? So unless we get significant negative development over the Middle East again, I don't think the Bears have a prayer, right? And I'm still gonna maintain my thesis. Bears don't push below the 20-week moving average of around 50. I think I said it was like 57.5 or 56.5. We don't close below the 20-week moving average until the macro wave 4 or the next bear market, right? So far that thesis has been maintained pretty consistently. So
I hear you. The only reason that I think we could possibly deviate from that rule is if we had something like, I don't know, being very oversold for a long period of time, such as hitting an all-time high well before the halving, which we did just see. So that was one of the reasons why I was thinking it was possible to see what would be a over aggressive correction for the time being, and that would be that dip down below the 111-day moving average and the 140, and maybe trying to touch that 200-day daily moving average. And then one of the things that I've been learning ever since we've been hanging out with Professor Know-It-All, aka STP, Swing Trade Pros, more, is that he's kind of shown me that you can actually chart the RSI a little bit, and there's even some internal support and resistances for RSI. So what he talks about on some of his stuff is that if you see RSI continuously making lower lows on a moderate time frame, then that means that you have an RSI momentum downwards. So 19th of March, we have a low here, similar low-ish here, but it looks like it was starting to build some resistance or support, excuse me. And then we broke below for the 17th, and then we broke down again. And this one was important for me because I was looking over here at this 22 January low on RSI, and we actually were lower than that one, which led me to believe that there's possibility for RSI to keep going and actually crack that 30 mark, which is possible, but you don't see it too often.
Yeah. The only time we cracked that 30 mark or got significantly low, like mid 20s below that, was during the macro wave 2, right? Yo, definitely shout out to Mr. Noda. I like that guy's a fucking Chad and TA. I've been trying, I was talking to him after our stream, bro. I was like, yo, we got to get you on the 60-day cycles, because he was like, oh man, I think the dip is over. I'm like, yo, we're not even past day 30 yet. I think there's more to come. And then lo and behold, we made that 42-day low. And I was like, yo, come on, man. You can't play the 60-day cycles, bro. 60-day cycles don't lie.
That's great. I love that one. So based on your technical analysis, then it kind of seems like right around September, maybe October-ish, we might be seeing over 100K Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, Q3, Q4 during that Santa rally. That'd be a nice gift, man. That'd be a nice little present, bro.
See,
love it.
One of the things that this lines up so perfectly is if Bitcoin gets really high like that, the 100K is going to be one of those levels that people are like, yeah, we're here. All right, let's go fuck around then, right? And so that's when you're going to start seeing Bitcoin going down into Ethereum, which then goes down into alts, right? However, this would also be perfect timing for like the ETFs to pop up. And that also just so happens to line up with that others chart as well, because it's right around October, and September area that we hit the very low. Isn't that weird how that all lines up?
Here's the thing too, right? Here's the thing that gets me so bullish is because this is within the context of there hasn't been a significant injection of liquidity yet by that will probably happen during the election, right? When you finally have momentum into QE, right? That's not there yet. If once that happens, so remember I was showing you the open interest chart had an all-time high of about 36 billion. It was 36 billion. Yeah, it was 36 billion. It's not too far-fetched to think that we could 2x that into like 75 billion. Like, can you imagine at the very peak of the bull market, bro, that open interest shit goes above 1 trillion? That'd be what, bro? Bro, if the open interest is showing like 1 trillion, that's probably a good indicator that you need to start getting the fuck out, bro. When people are getting that degenerate, right? You like imagine the greed gets back up into the high 90s, and then open interest like cumulative goes beyond 1 trillion, and then you got all this like strong bearish divergence on the chart combined with like all the on-chain indicators that we're watching. I'm a Jeep, bro. I'm out.
True. Have you noticed anything else going on with other coins other than Bitcoin, kind of following similar trends? One of the things that I've noticed is that it looks like a lot of there's similar sentiment in which way it's moving at the current time, but the size of the moves are different, and they're also kind of different every time, which leads to you get a bit of a different shape. So if you look over at the Bitcoin chart, I know, or Mrs. Producer's gone right now, but we don't need it right now. Bitcoin is pretty much on a bit of a downwards trajectory. However, if you go look at the Ethereum chart, it's almost in more of a flat pattern, which is that it really built up and established a low at about 28,500, and it's defended it since then. And then similarly with other altcoins and whatnot, you can kind of see a similar pattern, which is that some of them really dropped hard around the time when we had the Iran-Israel stuff. But then the latest dip around the beginning of May, it pretty much was exactly like that same 8 to 10% that Bitcoin had. So we're seeing similar sentiments. However, we're seeing different shapes in the charts as a result of it, based on how much they move differently each time.
Yeah, bro. And here's the thing: you mentioned Ethereum. Ethereum's got bullish divergence, man, on the daily. So if you caught that 2,800 low, bro, you just chill, because even if like, so I was having a consultation with a client. He's like, "What do you think the chances of Ethereum hitting 2,500?" I'm like, right now, bro, not with all of these upward momentum indicators telling me that we're gonna pivot here real soon, plus the bullish divergence on the daily chart on Ethereum starting to show and starting to develop really strongly. 2,500, set some limit orders. I wouldn't bet on it though. There's way too much support in between 3,000 and 2,500 for Ethereum that I'm like, I don't think so, bro. Especially if you look at the liquidity charts for Ethereum, bro. Like just take V3 on Uniswap, where the chunk of the buy orders, right? There's that buy wall for Ethereum that was sitting around 3,000. That's why it was like a magnet, man. That 3,000 price point for Ethereum was a magnet because everybody was sniping 3,000, man. So I guarantee you right now, people are going to be sniping like 28, 27. I haven't looked at the liquidity chart yet recently, but I guarantee you people are going to have buy orders sitting at around like 2,700. You know, especially people looking at the bullish divergence on the Ethereum chart, they're like, yo.
So here's the thing that I was looking at, right? So I'm not a chart guy, right? So when I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I don't know all of the super details that you're talking about, but I do know when something is really undervalued.
Oh, for sure.
When I'm looking at Ethereum right now, I'm like, why is it so cheap? Like, why is it not performing at all? That's the way it feels. And then I started thinking about something. I'm like, if they want to make an Ethereum ETF and they want to try and buy money as low as possible, what is the thing that they're going to try to do? They're going to try and keep it as low as possible, buying it as cheap as possible until they're able to, until they're able to, launch it. And then once they launch, then you start seeing this crazy freaking movements that just start going up. It happened with Bitcoin. Although with Bitcoin, I think it happened over a longer span of time, and they just realized that it works so well that they're being a little more aggressive, let's say, with Ethereum. Also, Ethereum's a little bit smaller too, so they can, it's a little bit easier to do that. But I'm pretty sure this has a lot to do with the reason why it's so cheap. So what I was thinking, right, was like, okay, we're under 3,000. It looks way too cheap almost, and that's what I want to find, and that's what you want to find too in bull markets, is cheap things. And so you want to buy up, and my thought process was like, anything under 3,000 is just way too cheap. I don't care if it goes down to like even like 2,000, right? I don't even care. Under 3,000 is kind of like that level of like, hey, this is super cheap, just keep buying it down.
Yeah, even if you buy 3,000, bro, you're locking in a 3x minimum. 3x minimum. What do they say? You got to take the ugly girl out, right? Because the glow up is gonna happen soon. Right now, Ethereum's the ugly girl because all the attention is on the prom queen, which is Bitcoin. You got ordinals. I mean, fucking Michael Saylor, bro. He was talking up. He wasn't building on runes, but he was talking about building on ordinals. So it's like even Michael Saylor, Demaxi, was like, "Yo, we got to start checking out this ordinal stuff, man." So all the attention right now is on Bitcoin. Right, the ETFs, ordinals, you got runes, meme coins in Bitcoin. You got meme coins on Bitcoin now. The halving. So like all the attention is on Bitcoin, man. So you gotta, you gotta rotate into the stuff that's not popular. And you're right, Nate. Currently, that's Ethereum, right? Everybody's. I read this one article the other day, like, Ethereum started becoming inflationary again, because because the transaction volumes for Ethereum started getting really, really, really low, and so instead of becoming deflationary, it started becoming inflationary again, because obviously because of the staking, right? And if the transaction volume is not there to match, then it's going to become inflationary. So that's what's been happening. Like I think it started becoming inflationary again at some point in 2023. So now people are like, oh yeah, Ethereum's like, they're fighting Ethereum again. Yeah, Ethereum's going to become inflationary again. And so I'm like, okay, man, like it does. Yes, Bitcoin is accumulating the majority of attention right now in the market, but man, don't fade Ethereum, bro. Like it's going to have its time. It's going to have its time. You just got to wait. You just got to wait on a Vitalik, man. He's spending way too much time with those Asian girls. Once he gets exhausted, then he's gonna.
All right. I know Crypto Sloth made a comment earlier that Jay was starting to sound like Miguel a lot, but like, damn, really sound like Miguel now.
I mean,
I think he was alluding to your analogy of saying that Bitcoin is the prettiest girl at the prom right now, but just you wait.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like come on, man. And then you talk about taking out the ugly analogy. Yeah, you talk about taking the ugly girl out, man. Just wait till Pulse Chain gets its day in the sun, bro. You taking out the ugly.
Hey, she's not ugly.
That's what I'm betting on.
She might have just turned 18 is all.
Look at this bitch. You're coming with me. Here we are investing in the ugly ducklings long before anyone else gets ready. Hey, we should let's
hit chats.
Hey, yeah.
Let's hit some chats. All right, we got some excellent folks in the chat tonight. First up, we got Ramon Carrillo. He says, "Sup, fam? What's up, Ramon?" And then after that, we got a pair of super chats. We got one from Farmer J, aka How Much for Shirtless an Analyst. You didn't know this, but he was shirtless when he was doing the analysis, but he just put it back on because camera came back on.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we got Hex Huddle Pulse with the $6.90. I was trying to find a good way of getting the 69 in there, but couldn't quite. He says, "Let's do a poll." There, 69 dimes. He says, "Let's do a poll on the shirt. It's a democracy." I don't know about that one, but we'll consider. We'll see if we can get that DRT OnlyFans link going.
We gotta get Dace in, bro.
If chat really wants to see me shirtless, bro, go on the Instagram. That's my fitness Instagram. You could see me shirtless there. I'm too shy to do it live, bro. Or like, come to the meetup when we're like at Miami Beach, bro. Then you can see me shirtless.
Jay, you should put some like pre-cuts in your collar and then just like live us. Just rip it off.
Hulk Hogan it?
Yeah, dude.
Oh man. Nah. Chat gotta pay for figures, bro.
True. Very true. He does run the fitness page. You guys have been asking for it, but little did you know, it's already there. Next up, we got longtime friend of the channel, Moonpilled Rational Optics. How's it going, brother? He says, so Jay, what you're trying to say with all this TA is that it's going to zero.
It's gonna add a few zeros. Moonpill. I don't know about going to zero though.
It's going to zero. It's going to zero. After that, we have someone I want to give a very special shout out to. We have Crypto Sloth saying yo yo yo. Not just because
congrats on graduating, man. Congrats.
Yes, we have Dr. Sloth. It is Dr. Sloth in the chat now. He is a fresh graduate, so we want to say massive congratulations, dude. All the hard work has paid off. Well done. And speaking of lots of hard work paying off, we have another friend, a little more recent, but still a very good friend. We have Crypto Kool-Aid, part of the Gifford Tech team and RG3's band of merry men. He says, what's up, D-Gens? What's up to you, good sir? I want to say congratulations on the iBurn launch. I know looks like it's been working very well, so congratulations. And we look forward to seeing the stuff. In case you did not see the start of the stream, Nate was literally starting off the stream by arbitraging iBurn and Icosa. And I think he said that he like doubled the amount of pulse that he put into it. So tripled. There we go.
It was
Live.
tripled, yeah. It was tripled live. But then then the slippage started getting to me and I lost some pulse, but I'm still up. So
Hey, there you go. Good shit.
Absolutely wild. Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, Kool-Aid, you gotta rewind, bro. You're gonna get a fucking kick out of that. Nate was doing that shit live, bro, and he just 3x'd right like in like 20 minutes. It was wild.
That's how the arbitrage works, baby.
It is. There's opportunity for people that are willing to look at it. And then I know I have to imagine there's going to be a bit of a learning curve for the community when it comes to arbitraging iBurn and Icosa, partly because if you go on Dex Screener, what it wants to do is it wants to put Icosa in terms of hex much more than it wants to put it in terms of pulse. Yeah. And you have to measure it in terms of pulse in order to do the arbitrage. So we might have to figure that out or find a better way to do it. Probably make some spreadsheets, hit up that Microsoft Excel a good bit. But yeah, like Kool-Aid's comment says, we haven't even gotten started. That's right. This is, if the people that have been paying attention, this is only step 2 in a larger, or I guess it's technically step 3 if you count PGIF as step 2. But this is all working towards the ultimate goal of Pulsar, which is going to be a cross-chain protocol to help arbitrage from, or not arbitrage, but help move some value from Ethereum over to Pulse Chain because, well, it's just a better chain. Let's be real,
bro. That's what we need, man. We need more ways to get into Pulse Chain from Ethereum, right? Like, look, bridge is great, but I mean, come on, man. Let's be honest, right? The bridge is such a big wall for a lot of people because of the fees, man.
Bro, the fees are nothing. I bridged in earlier today. It was $2.
Bro, you know why? Because you're smart and you're bridging capital when gas fees are low, man.
Yeah.
But like, let's be honest, gas fees aren't always going to be this low, right? Right now, the market is back in fear. Nobody's using Ethereum, at least not as much as they were using it back in March and back in April. Once the bull market starts running again, like those fees are going to be insane, dude. Like it's not going to be pretty. And you need more ways into Pulse Chain because like you guys said, man, like I like fast speed and low fees, bro, and Pulse Chain has that, right? So like I want, bro, it would be such an amazing thing if one day from my Coinbase account I could send my Ethereum or my USDC directly to Pulse Chain for like pennies. Because I could do it, like I could do that with Avalanche. I did it this morning. I could do that with Base. Me and Nate did it this morning or yesterday for pennies, bro. Pennies. That would be fantastic. But we got to get these losers onto Pulse Chain, man, because they don't want to get the alpha.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities in the bridges, not just because of the gas fees, but also from the security standpoint. Because infamously, the bridges have been the single largest weak point when it comes to cross-chain functionality, and honestly, just the biggest security issue inside of the crypto space. So whoever figures that out and like actually solves it very well, I hope they are handsomely rewarded because they're gonna make all of our lives a lot better.
So one of the things you guys like Kool-Aid, you and Gifford and everybody have kind of inspired me because at first I was looking into the deep liquidity that the Solid Index was doing, and I'm like, wow, there's something that could be done here, right? And I was really starting to dive into it, but then all of a sudden you guys came out with your thing, and I started looking at it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is a compounding thing with that bonded liquidity, and now I think I figured out a way where number one, we can make Pulse Chain, quite frankly, like a different type of L1 where everybody's going to want to go to because of just what you can do on it. And it's going to be a shit ton of money versus like Solana. Solana only has lots of activity because of memes, whereas like we can have the same memes over here, only whoever is owning like say Pulse is going to watch their bags freaking go like this. And then also on top of it, during a bear, when everything else is dropping like 90%, this particular way of adding all these together is going to be able to keep it down like maybe 50%. It's going to be like Bitcoin, where it goes down the least, right? So it's you can actually like hold that stuff forever. But then on top of it, I've got a project idea that I'm gonna need some help with. It had one of the things that would be added into it would actually be Jeff's whole Pulse farm right now.
Yo, pitches to the forge, bro.
Well, this is going to be a little bit bigger of a project, but let's just call it the Roundtable because there will be several chains connected. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but I'm working on something and I'm running around right now with all the devs and everybody I can possibly get a hold of who might possibly know how this could be put together, but the idea is there. So stay tuned, guys. This is probably going to be like a year-long thing, so maybe I'll officially launch it, throughout the next bear, but like this is going to be a big deal, guys.
Hey, you know what you should launch it, bro? You should launch it November 2026.
2020 November. Yeah, right when everything goes
right
down.
at the start of the next bull market.
Well, that would
Bull
be the
market or
start,
bear
wouldn't it?
market.
Yeah.
That's
very bottom.
Yeah. Beginning of the bull, worst of the bear. It is the same point after all.
That's a theoretical. That's a theoretical bottom, right? If the 4-year cycle stay intact, that's a theoretical bottom of the next bear market, November 2026.
Yeah,
Kool-Aid got it right over here.
He says the smart thing is to build complex things in the bear. Although I think if you want to look at it from a timeline standpoint, it might even be like once you hit the top of the cycle and you kind of get that confirmation, that's the time to start building so that you can launch at the bottom of the bear and just capture all those X's on the way up.
Yep.
And at the same time, that's a good time to start as well because you just took profits, aka you now have capital to start paying some devs. Or you could be a masochist and go try to learn Web3 development. But it's hard.
Don't do that.
Ask me how I know.
There's other people who have already done that.
Well, I mean, that's the time when you should be doing the most work, right? That's the time when we did the most work. I mean, we're doing a lot of work now still, but we put a lot of hours in the bear market because we were like, yo, this is the time to pay attention. When everybody else is fucking checked out because price go down, this is when we were like, yo, we got to start building capital to dollar cost average near the lows. That's exactly what we did, right? And then a lot of the good projects that we were following, they were building over the bear market, right? Like look at Illuvium. Illuvium was building the entire bear market, bro. Just like waiting, like loading up barrels into the shotgun to deploy when things started to really run hot. And look, at the very least, from the input that I've gotten from the people playing the beta right now, because they're in a closed beta, currently, they like what the team has done, right? Especially since the team threw the Illuvials out onto the open. People were really hyped about that, and they said the game looks amazing. We got a few guys on the team playing it. I know, like Jeff is playing it, right? He said, I know Centurion in the chat is playing it too. And maybe Tracker, I'm not sure. Yeah. He's streaming it too. So if you guys want to see
Jeff as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I was unfortunate. I was not fortunate enough to get a beta code this time around, so I got left out of the fun, but at the same time, not beating myself up over it because I've gotten a lot of access to other information that has been a lot better in my opinion.
Yep.
By the way, when I buy my time back, because remember that's what it's all about for me, right? When I buy my time back, what am I going to be replacing my my outside job with? Maybe some developing.
Yep.
Developing would be cool.
You're always working, you never fucking retire.
Bro, yeah, for sure. Like my ultimate goal is to get like balls deep into crypto, bro. Like just the nuts hanging out. That's it. Shout out Hodge Twins.
Get up inside the nuts hanging walls.
Classic Hodge Twins. If you guys don't know the classic Hodge Twins, man, look it up, man. Twin muscle workout.
Funny.
Look, Jay, you can launch a project anytime and get some gains, But
Mhm.
if you launch it in the bottom of the bear, you can get all kinds of gains.
All
All
kinds, dude.
kinds of gains.
All
And a
kinds.
shit ton of hate and red
Yeah.
candles in the beginning. Get the weak hands out. Fuck 'em.
Oh my god.
All right,
But
boys, are we
anyways.
ready to move over
Yeah,
to some
but-
articles? I know we
Oh,
got
yeah.
Let's do
we're already an hour in, but we still got
Oh, we're
plenty
doing
of
that.
stuff to cover.
Oh, well. What
Hey,
have
I
we here?
apologize. This might be a bit of a government heavy episode because we're going to be talking about a bill that just went through the House of Representatives. And then we're going to do our favorite activity, which is AKA dunking on Gary Gensler because he did his thing where he appeared on another live TV show and honestly came off as pretty tone deaf. So that's my take on it before we get into it. That is what I got. All right. I am going to start sharing.
Let's do it.
It's
There
not
we
a
go.
proper
Okay.
share if there's no sound effects.
Excellent. Alrighty. So, first article comes to us courtesy of Ledger Insights. This happened on March 9th, but is talking about an event that happened on, this happened on May 9th. This is talking about an event that happened the day before on the 8th. So, Congress passes resolution to overturn the SEC crypto custody rule. Yesterday, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bipartisan resolution to overturn the SEC's SAB 121, a staff accounting bulletin that restricts banks from offering digital asset custody services. That part is not super important. However, for the people that don't know exactly what we're talking about, we have this. This is a related article from the same website. This is SEC Hester Pierce highlights bank digital asset custody rules failures to protect investors. So doing a little bit more digging, this is one of the ones I found out, which is that SAB 121 mandates that any listed firm must record crypto assets held in custody as both an asset and a liability on the balance sheet.
What?
This requirement complicates banks' compliance with the Basel
That's
rules by necessitating $1 of capital set aside for every dollar held in custody, rendering crypto custody economically unfeasible. That is
Unfeasible.
unfeasible. Because what they're saying is that they're effectively not treating it as money in the bank, literally, but they're treating it more of like a risk asset, which is that you have taken this from someone else. Therefore, you have to put up your own amount of capital equal to what they gave you to protect them from it. Which, if you view this as any sort of investment or store of value at all, that is completely counter to the way that the average person views it.
Yeah.
It's about damn gay as hell.
Yep. Like, bro, so you can imagine, right? Just for the folks at home who might hear that, and that's a lot of gobbledygook. If a bank were to custody one of your Bitcoin, that means because the SEC, according to SAB 121, wants them to list it on their balance sheet as a liability, meaning that they would have to hold whatever the dollar valuation of that Bitcoin at the time in dollars. So if Bitcoin is worth $65,000 right now, and a bank, your local Chase branch, was to custody that, they would have to hold $65,000 worth in reserves. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the banks go by this thing called fractional reserve banking, right? Right? Do they treat assets? Go ahead.
Not anymore, bro. They don't have to have a reserve. As of 2020 or 2021, it's a 0% reserve is the requirement, and that's from like the Fed.gov. They do not have to have.
Is that
any more
why
reserves.
we started having so many bank runs then in 2022?
I don't know why we started having bank runs. I just know that in like during COVID, that was one of the things that that was made the new rule or whatever. And I will find it because I remember that came up on one of Tim Pool's shows long ago.
Okay,
Shout out Tim Pool.
so this is
The
so
bank runs
stupid.
the bank runs are a slightly separate issue, which again came back to not the SEC but the Fed in that case, and the governments of the banks themselves, because they held a lot of government bonds. And then when the interest rates got jacked up, those bonds then went underwater and were technically bad assets to be holding. So the Fed kind of ipso facto bankrupted a lot of banks.
Beautiful.
Anyways, onto this one.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely like
March
just
15th, 2020.
stupid. Because like from what you said, Agent J, if that is the case where it's like, okay, well, if you have, one Bitcoin of $65,000, they now need $65,000 in the bank and able to collateralize it, right? Then the world, like the banks around, at least the United States, are not going to be able, in fact, around the world, technically, are not going to be able to keep up with that
Yeah.
pricing of Bitcoin. It's
Yeah.
literally impossible. They would have to
Exactly.
print so much money, we'd be in hyperinflation.
And here's the thing, Nate. It's not just have to do with Bitcoin. That also means that any tokenized securities, right, or any tokenized assets that a bank might want to get involved in, if this is a blanket guideline, right, for how they treat digital currencies and digital assets, that would also extend to other things besides Bitcoin. So that means the ETFs for Bitcoin, for Ethereum. If any other crypto assets were to get an ETF, if any banks were to ever consider holding or custodying their customers' assets, they would have to treat those in the same way as they would have to do with Bitcoin, which means they would have to hold $1 in reserve for every single one of those assets that they have in their custody, which, like you said, would inevitably render the ability of any banks to custody their customers' digital currencies, right, or their digital assets. It would be impossible to do so, right?
Yeah, digital assets is a key word that you're throwing out there, because to take it one step further, that also incorporates what could possibly consider this entire thing a poison pill, is that digital assets also incorporates tokenized real world assets. So when you do something like that, what that does is you're now, if this rule were to stick, what that does is it de-incentivizes you to tokenize real world assets because they've already been dealing with the real world assets. And then once you tokenize it, you now subject it to this new rule, which requires you not to just have that real world asset or the equivalent capital or whatever exposure you have to it, but you now have to double it on your asset sheets and hold cash in reserves equal to that real world asset.
Yep. And here's another
thing. Not just crypto, it's attacking any sort of cryptoization of stuff that has already been happening.
Anything that they attempt to tokenize to basically turn digital, this would apply to them too, right? And here's one of the issues that not just the regulators, right, but companies in general had. You don't treat customer assets in this way since forever, right? Banks are not required to list their customers' assets on their balance sheet because it doesn't fucking belong to them. It belongs to the customer, right? So why in the hell would they?
Notably, Jay, I think there was someone that recently got sent to jail over running an exchange by doing that exact thing, and he might go by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried.
Hey, look at that.
You know, so it's like you don't treat customer assets that way. And here's the thing: so you can make the argument, and they are making the argument that we just want to keep customers safe from the potential risk that they expose themselves by engaging in crypto. But here's the thing. If a bank were to custody the assets, right, I don't fucking expect them to give me the dollar valuation of my Bitcoin. I only expect them to give me my damn Bitcoin, right? I don't expect them to act like an exchange. So imagine let's say you had some jewelry, or let's say you had the deed to a piece of land in a safety deposit box in your bank. Can you go up to your bank and be like, hey man, this deed or this jewelry, right? This Rolex that I'm keeping in the bank is valued at about $10,000. I need you to exchange my Rolex for $10,000. You don't fucking do that now, do you? Right? And so it doesn't make sense for them to have to keep reserves equal to the dollar valuation of the Bitcoin, because I only expect them to custody the Bitcoin. I'm not expecting them to be able to redeem the Bitcoin for dollars, right? And so it doesn't make sense, at least from that standpoint, for the banks to have to do that, right?
If that was the case, they'd be in exchange themselves.
Exactly.
What the hell?
I was going to say, Jay, you just said it doesn't make sense for them to what are you doing presupposing that all these rules and laws that the SEC is putting out make sense? That's a silly starting point. That ain't true. Nice try, can't fool me. Yeah, a lot of this is all just a bunch of bullshit, man. I'm glad that Congress is at least, stepping in and doing something about it. Like that's not
Mm-hmm.
that's more than I
Congress
would
sees how
expect of them.
stupid this is, Will. Like that's
Although
literally what's happening right now. They're
they
seeing
could
they've listened to you.
they could be
They've
throwing
listened to
us
you.
a bone, man, to distract us from some other bullshit that they're not doing. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
most likely.
a little bit skeptical here, but like,
Oh,
yeah,
don't you worry,
it's like,
Will. There's certainly some misdirection and deception going on. We'll go over
oh
that
yeah,
a bit later on
okay,
in the show,
goody
right?
gumdrop.
hmm But yeah.
Excellent.
So go ahead, Z.
I was gonna just see where we're at. If we're ready, we can always move on to our favorite activity, which is talking about GG.
Well, so to give a little bit more insight for the folks at home about this particular issue, right? So SAB 121, one of the bigger issues that Congress and crypto companies had with it is because, so this was Congress in particular, right? Is because the SEC presented this as like guidelines and not actual like regulation. They were able to navigate a process called the APA, right? And so what the APA is the Administrative Procedure Act. And what the APA is basically it's a rule book, right, for how federal government agencies in the US make and enforce regulations. It lays out the process that they need to follow when creating new rules, including giving the public, which is the key thing here, right? Giving the public a chance to comment and ensuring transparency. It also sets up guidelines for how agencies can conduct hearings, investigations, and other administrative actions. So it's like a set of instructions to make sure that government agencies play fair and involve us, the public, when making important decisions. But because they didn't pass this as a formal regulation, they were able to navigate this checks and balance process, what the APA is supposed to be for, right? Because if this had gone through the APA process and it was up for public commenting, this would have never gone through. And here's another key thing. 121 was passed around April of 2022. And so the entire market had already seen this, and they're like, there's absolutely no way that banks could adhere to this type of capital risk, right? Because they would have to hold so much capital in their reserves, right? Somebody came up there and shot up the bank. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that they could just take, right? That's number one. And obviously, you're going to have to print a ton of money. That's just not going to happen. And so a lot of different companies actually reached out to the SEC, like they always do, and said, hey, man, can you please make some, can you please make it so that crypto and digital assets in general aren't included in this, because it just makes it impossible for us to do any kind of business whatsoever. And obviously, Gary, like he always does, defers it to somebody else, right? He pushes the buck to somebody else. That's up to the entities in questions and the regulators in questions for them to decide what they're going to do with that. But we obviously know that the SEC has they've been given carte blanche by the president to act however which way they wanted to, which is why we find ourselves in this position to begin with, right? So a lot of governing bodies and a lot of different corporations, a lot of different entities have reached out and said, hey man, can you can you make some modifications here, because this is not going to work. And the SEC has just passed the buck down the line, right? So like they don't want to do their work. They don't want to do their work. So it's certainly not without effort from all of these different crypto companies. It's not for a lack of effort, right? They made the effort, but the SEC is just not willing to negotiate with them. There's one thing in particular within the article which kind of ties into this point. What they suggested, if they didn't want to overturn 121, because one of the key points that people are pushing back across the aisle, right? The Democrats, they're pushing back because look, if this were to be overturned, then it would not allow the SEC to create future regulation very similar to this one. And a lot of people might argue that, well, good, because they're not doing their job well, so they should keep their hands off of this and let the CFTC handle it instead, right? And so, okay, fair argument. But here's the thing. So the House Republicans and the Democrats that voted in favor of overturning 121 said, look, the easiest way that we can handle is if the SEC would be willing to work with us to make these modifications. And what the hell do you think Gigi said, man? What do you think he said?
He said, "Fuck right off."
He said, "Fuck the hell right off, man. We ain't doing that."
Yeah.
And so it's not like they're not giving him the opportunity, bro. Like, hey, look, we're willing to work with you here. All right. If you still want to be involved in making regulations for crypto, sure, then make it easy for you. Just work with us. Work with us and making the required modifications that we want to make, and then we can move forward, right? This doesn't have to go through the Senate. It doesn't have to go through Biden's desk. Biden has already made it pretty obvious what he wants to do, right? If this somehow goes through the Senate and it lands on the president's desk, Biden said, I'm going to veto it because, Biden, most popular president of all time.
Yep.
So we'll
That's
see,
a
man.
strong
I
man,
love that
Jay.
guy. He is the best president we've ever had. When he fell out of the plane that day, I was like, yep, this is the guy right here.
That's my
fucking
man.
Nate. When you said fell out
That's
of the
not
plane,
a mouse. That's my brother.
I was imagining Biden falling from a flying plane.
Parachuting and shit.
For fans of Charlie Miguel, I think they've been playing this one AI generated clip of the lady, the Janet Yellen.
Yes, Janet Yellen.
And they do the auto generate where she's like, instead of doing the EA or whatever, we're just gonna ape a fat bag into Bitcoin and pump it to 100 billion trillion 300 million market cap. Yeah, Biden recently had a gaffe where he pretty much said that exact same thing, where he goes 300 million trillion billion. It's like, wow, reality is it just becomes comedy at some point. So
got a question for you guys. This has something to do with Will's comment earlier about this being misdirection, right? Something else going on. So I am actually of the same opinion. I think this is indeed like a bait and switch, a misdirection, red herring, however you want to call it, right? Because right now it seems like the crypto community is pretty gung-ho about SAB 121 being turned over. But you have to realize that this is a bill that has something to do with what? Banks custodying your assets.
Hey.
Not your keys, not your coins.
We can't trust you guys to hold on to your own things. You're going to fuck it all up. Don't you worry. We'll regulate good old daddy bankers to do it for you.
Right? So what is happening? Guys, this is antithetical to the spirit of crypto, right? Not your keys, not your coins. And so I was thinking to myself, is this a situation where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or the enemy of my enemy is still my enemy? It just happens that
they're doing something in line.
Yeah, we have some mutual interest, and so we're going to be allies at the current moment. What do you guys think, man?
So what you're talking about with that, Jay, is this: you got two titans, and you can't defeat any one of these titans by yourself, especially when they're 100% like gung ho. But if you have two titans fight each other, then whichever the winner is, because one of them, number one, you that's one defeated already. But then number two, the one that defeated the other one is now weak.
Unless
then you attack.
Unless it's WWE, Nate, and they're just pretending the whole time. It's like we got to get the crowd amped up. We got to make them like really, really hate Dwayne the Rock Johnson, or they got to cheer for the Undertaker this time. And it's like, man, am I watching a sock puppet fight right now, or is this even real?
Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. When was the last time an employer handed you cash for a job that Jay, you don't count? When was the last time that an employer, like somebody that you worked for, handed you physical money or handed you a physical check? Because pretty much everyone I know, when they work for someone, they get paid via direct deposit. It just goes into your bank account. It's just
Gentlemen,
it's just
before
ones
you
and
say
zeros.
anything on this one, as I'm not a lawyer, but as one of the legal analysts on the team, I advise you not to answer this question if you did get paid in cash.
Oh, okay. So like,
We
So,
are
like-
live.
so like what
Just
I'm
half
saying is
joking, but-
people don't get paid in cash anymore. Banks are in charge of all the money. When you swipe your little cardy doodah at the store, and whatever the hell happened to your bank account number, and it comes up as like declined, it's like, oh, I gotta go phone a friend so I can spend my own money. Like crypto obviously solves this and everything, but like we already don't own most of the stuff that we use to like hang on, fucking I've got these little coin separators here, right? Like fucking cash isn't real anymore. Like people don't go out and like spend physical money. You're like we are long past the point of being in charge of the money that we receive. Like pretty much all of the money is digital. Pretty much all of the money is tied to these little plastic cards and little plastic chips, and it's ones and zeros. So like the banks control the most power that you can have economically speaking. They don't control it, the custody, whatever you want to call it, right? You have to use their little system to use these little money things to go around so you can buy your Twinkies and like hang out at the mall and do whatever, right? Like it's a fucking crazy ass world that we live in, and now we're talking about like, oh, banks are theoretically going to be like, owning your Bitcoin in the near future. And it's like, yeah, it's probably a little slippery slope that we're
How
sliding
about
on
you,
down
Z?
over here.
What do you think about that misdirection, bro? That's definitely a bait and switch, man. It's like, gotcha.
Will,
you thought we
Will, I
were
was
on your
half
team.
joking.
Yeah.
Will, I was half joking about it when I talking about the cash thing, which is like the IRS they recently hired 83,000 agents. It might be 84. I can't remember which one number it is, but they recently hired a lot of people, and they're like, oh, do you think they're going after rich people or poor people who can't pay legal fees to fight you when the IRS sends you a bill saying, hey, you owe us $197? It's like the legal fees are literally more than it costs just to send the IRS their extortion fee.
Yep.
So when you do bring up the point, I know I think Gary Gensler, this is a Gary Gensler point actually, which is that he came on Squawk Box previously, and there was a point where it was this thing where it was like you half agreed with him, but also you also know who Gary is, so you just want to just oppose him and tell him that he's absolutely wrong. But he said the idea that the dollar is already digitalized when talking about CBDCs. And it's like, the sentiment is somewhat correct. However, what I think you're actually trying to do with a little bait and switch here is that no, the US dollar is not a CBDC. However, Will hit it exactly on the head when he said that, like, yes, people don't use physical cash anymore. Like, even checks are a dying breed. Wire transfers are unheard of almost. So it's at this point where it's like, yeah, we operate digitally for a lot of things. And honestly, if you try to operate in cash or check, you are going to be penalized or taxed for it by whatever service you're using. And I mean, like, even like, I'm sure there are plenty of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist connoisseurs and experts out there who wake up in the morning and just go find people to lowball like myself for just pure pleasure. But the point is that even when all these people want to operate in cash and check, it is an active detriment when it comes to a physical, like, by the number standpoint, which is you're always going to be paying like 2 to 3% just from going between each of the mediums, not to include any of the tax that the government's going to levy on you anyways. As to Jay's point about do we agree about the whole enemy of my enemy is my friend thing? Or is it just bad arguments? This is a deep question, and
It's a gotcha moment, Z. It's a gotcha
little
moment.
bit, but it is, but there's also a little bit of wisdom from when we covered Ray Dalio's book on Friday, which was, he talked about when you get late into the cycle of a civilization, you start to see the rise of populism, which is that people really just try to appeal to emotions rather than principles. And this is the point that I'm really going to harp on, which is that he says that populism gets to a point where it's less about the principles and more about winning. And this gets to a deeper philosophical point with like political theory that I've been kicking around for a while now, which is that it is very important to have principles. However, if your principles is losing, do you have any principles other than just being subjugated? What I mean by that is that from the exactly, from the libertarian standpoint, you can argue that libertarianism has an Achilles heel, which is that it focuses so much on individualism and kind of just like live and let live, which is that it is incapable of coming together to fight against principles that are fundamentally opposed to it, like communism or socialism, or whatever you want to say, which is that your strategy or your principles and your philosophy is not strong enough to stand up against the forces that wish to overtake you and wish to subjugate you. So the question is not, do you agree with what is being said now? Which having principles is absolutely important, because if you don't live a principled life, you will stand for nothing and fall for anything. But at the same time, if your principles involve you losing consistently and not ever daring to win, then you effectively have no principles.
Yeah.
That was very roundabout. Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. And it's, this is obviously just a small reminder that even though this is technically a win for the space, make sure that you keep yourself grounded in those principles that Z was saying, right? Which means you stay within the spirit of decentralization. You stay within the spirit of what crypto was supposed to do, right? Not your keys, not your coins. So this might be a technical win, but remember what these banks are trying to do. They want to take your crypto away from you. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
The way that I look at these kind of scenarios is I gotta figure out what the short story is called. I think it might just literally be called The Monkey's Paw. But ask yourself, is whatever thing I'm dealing with right now a monkey's paw? Which is that you can get your wish granted, but it might just happen in the worst possible way that is going to haunt you later.
That is a fantastic.
I know about a certain type of wish
fantastic,
that
yeah.
usually happens with kittens. Like if you wish for a lot of kittens, you might not get what you're asking for.
You might get dogs, which is better.
No.
I don't understand. Can you spell this out, Nate?
What's the other way you call cats?
Oh, pussy.
Oh.
God damn it.
And
You guys, come on.
Canceled.
If we weren't canceled by now, then they're not
Yo,
paying
so
attention.
here's another thing, right? You guys realize that on the week that people were expecting SAB 121 to be overturned, what happened at the very start of I started the Monday morning of last week with this news. Remember what happened with Robinhood? Robinhood,
You mean
got
Robinhood met with the SEC 16 times in secret?
No, shit,
that happened
bro.
recently.
Miss McGettit. Okay, so wow, I can't believe so. This was totally not coordinated, but I have a small clip to share with you guys just to see how the SEC and Gary have been acting in bad faith. Miss McGettit, if you could share my screen, I have a small clip for you guys here. So this has exactly to do with what Robinhood has been dealing with the Wells notice. So, is she back?
Standing by.
You have to share your screen first.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about I thought I did. I guess it was still in Z's. Give me 1 second.
You're too excited, man. You're too excited. You're like,
Relinquished control.
So you, here we go. There we go. That's the one.
We have no idea what it is that you're. There we go.
Yeah. She's kind of cute, though. So this is this gal is interviewing the CEO, I believe, of Robinhood, and to get his thoughts on the development with the Wells notice with the SEC. So this is going to display exactly, when I mentioned earlier about how people were reaching across the aisle trying to work with them, and Gary's like, nah, bro. Here's a good example.
Really strong volume growth with crypto, but over the weekend, SEC, or you guys at least disclosed, is Wells notice from the SEC. Essentially,
we did, yes.
So you've got Gary Gensler on one side saying, just come on in and register. What is the disconnect? You're a stock brokerage firm. Why couldn't you just do the same thing you do with stocks, go in there, register everything, and call it a day?
The existing securities laws and framework don't account for crypto assets. And we tried to create what's called a special purpose broker-dealer for the purpose of transacting in crypto assets. We actually came in good faith to meet with the SEC. I think we met with them 16 times.
You met with them 16 times and made no progress?
16 times. That's right.
What is that about?
They told us they didn't want to keep meeting about it, and they didn't see a path toward it. So definitely the SEC has the ability to change the rules to allow for brokers to accommodate crypto assets. and they don't seem intent on doing that. And I didn't want to have to get into this situation, but we have to defend ourselves and advocate for our customers. It would not be acceptable to us to not have Americans have access to them.
Oh my god, that
Bro.
guy's delivery of the 16 times thing has me dead. Oh, that was perfect.
16 times.
So you met 16 times. You guys had no progress?
They
Yeah,
shoulda had a
16
fucking-
times.
They should
But
have
can
had
you imagine that, bro? It's like, how many chances do you have to give somebody? Right?
They should have photoshopped a knife into Gary Gensler's hand, just like because he had that fucking. That
Oh, he had the fist up. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
perfect, Will.
Bro, it'd have been. Ah!
Clip that, somebody.
you know why this particular clip, the reason why I wanted to highlight it is because it reminded me of another thing that we went over just a few months ago when Brian Armstrong appeared on the Wall Street Journal interview. Mrs. Producer, I'm going to switch over. I have that exact clip. So you thought 16 times was crazy. You thought that was crazy. So here's Brian Armstrong on the Wall Street Journal.
And I think it's fair to say a reasonably confrontational approach for the SEC. There's a Twitter thread in which you said some sketchy things going on. Do you regret that approach?
Well, I wouldn't say our approach has been confrontational. It is with great, we never relished the opportunity or the idea of like ending up in litigation with our regulator. In fact, quite the opposite.
Who would?
We spent
precisely
meetings over the last year trying to be as helpful and collaborative as we could, and really got no feedback. Right?
30.
We decided to become a public company, which and shared all this information with them. So, and by the way, I have a great deal of respect for the people at the SEC, the staff, the commissioners. I think our relationship with the chair has been quite difficult, honestly, but there's a lot of really good people at the SEC, and we've had an issue working with every other regulator out there, both in the US, but also internationally.
Why has the relationship with Chair Gensler been difficult?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate on his motives or anything like that. But when he first came into the role.
All right. That's like Armstrong here is a bit too much of a nice guy, bro. He's like, I don't want to speculate, but 30 times, bro, I speculate for you, bro. 30 times.
Speculate. Oh man.
Gary Gensler is going to continue to be one of the greatest enigmas and mysteries in the crypto space, just from the full 180 that he did back when he was a professor at MIT.
Did we rug?
Wait, no, we're
No,
good.
we're still there. Can you not hear us, Jay? Jay, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I will type something in the chat. Oh,
It went
there you
really
go.
robotic for a second, but yeah.
No, everything's working fine on my end. Are you good?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's that
good. All right.
damn Arizona sandstorm. They're coming for you.
Bro,
They
16
heard you play that.
times, 30 times, and no progress? Come on, guys.
I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, something sketchy is going on there at that point. By the way, did that guy not look like a cone head?
Oh,
cone head?
definitely.
What's a cone
For the
head?
people that know it's a movie and TV show, is it?
Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Man, I can't stand bald people. What a fucking waste of headspace.
Fuck you, Jay.
Oh my god.
And Josh apparently too.
I'll say this though, Gary Gensler is going to continue to be one of the great mysteries and enigmas of the crypto space because he has done a complete 180 on his position from back when he was a professor at MIT, shilling a cryptocurrency called Algorand, by the way, and now he's the head of the SEC and is actively hostile towards any sort of cryptocurrency and has just made the blanket statement that like the vast majorities are either scams, and if they're not scams, they're securities, and it's like. No, they're not just securities because you declare that they are. You have to apply actual like law and definitions to things. And the main one that I don't think he's actually been able to actually square the circle on is the Howey test. Which
I was going to say thinking.
Yep.
Well, also thinking is.
Sorry, I should.
He used to purportedly be a man of thinking, and he taught people how to think at a college, a widely revered college, might I add. And now he's doing this stuff. But the question is, why does he just wholeheartedly believe that these things are securities when he's literally on tape less than a decade ago saying that 75% of cryptocurrencies are not securities?
It's because, you know what? This is actually an interesting case. I can almost guarantee this is the deal. I can almost guarantee that when he took the job, he's obviously like kiss ass, like, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and do that. And they probably knew about that tape, but they literally thought, oh, it was so long ago, though, nobody's going to find it. Well, this is the fucking
Bro.
internet, dude.
Internet doesn't forget.
Internet doesn't forget. It does forget quickly,
Yeah,
right?
it forgets very
But
quickly.
it never actually forgets.
Yep, it's stored away.
Bingo.
It's all in the hard drive, not on the RAM.
Yeah. So yeah, man, the Robinhood thing, it's another one of those misdirections like Will was talking about earlier to cover up the fact that he's taken L's in Congress. I mean, guys, in politics, there are very few times when both the left and the right agree on things, right? This was 100, I think it was 122 to 86. So yeah, more than enough to swing the favor over to overturn 121. So he's trying to cover up. I mean, on Wells notice on Monday, quite a coincidence. Quite a coincidence.
Can we just keep adding L's to this guy? Like, I want a list of L's. Can we just have like a chart of like every
Gary
single
Gensler.
Gary Gans double Eller.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty,
But-
speaking of our favorite person, if we're ready, I do have our planned clip for the week talking about Gary.
Yes, let's
we
do
have
it.
more. There's more.
We've got ammo, boys and girls.
All right, let me know if you guys can hear me. If you don't hear this,
String for sure. I want to go to another clip for you, and this one is.
Sorry, my brain is broken, and I listen to everything at 1.5 minimum. I apologize.
How do you do that? If I listen to like at half, it's still too fast for me.
Nate, I listened to that last book that we covered at triple speed.
The on the political stream for sure. I want to go to another clip for you, and this one is back to your point that you made earlier. This is Gensler talking about Robinhood, the Wells notice, and also he's getting in on Ethereum as well. Listen in.
What is the state of play, though, with Robinhood to the extent that you can discuss it? And for those investors out there who are watching this morning who might have money at Robinhood, what are they supposed to think about these news
Look,
reports?
I can't speak to any one company, but stepping back from it, the field of crypto assets, without prejudging any one of them, many of those tokens are securities under the law of the land as interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court. So we follow that law.
Let me ask you this. Ultimately, and I think this is the big question in crypto land right now, is Ethereum a commodity or is Ethereum a security? And therefore, will there one day be an ETF? That's the fundamental question on the table in crypto land. You agree?
Oh, you're the one that's out there asking the questions. All I would say is, to me, the fundamental question is how do we ensure that the American investor is protected? And right now, they're not getting the required or needed disclosures. And the intermediaries in the center of this rather centralized market generally are conflicted and doing things we would never allow the New York Stock Exchange to do. The New York Stock Exchange is not allowed to trade agast the investors.
Okay, but let me ask you about this. You've seen the consensus lawsuit, and I know you have a Wells notice with them as well. This is Patrick Henry saying the following, and I want you to respond to it. Just months after a federal judge sanctioned SEC enforcement lawyers for lying in court, new evidence shows that Chair Gary Gensler himself misled Congress. The testimony to the Financial Services Committee last April, Chair Gensler refused to answer questions about the SEC's classification of Ether, and new court filings show this was an intentional attempt to misrepresent the Commission's position.
We speak to Congress directly in hearings like that and also directly to members, and we share with them accurately what we're doing.
You're muted,
You
sir.
are muted, Zenith. Nice try. I was going to say, Gary reminds me of a slippery little snake, a slithering through the grass.
He's a fucking slug.
So,
dude, what
cute
was
little
that?
orange
Do you
snake.
realize that every single question was answered with, well, I can't say specifically that. I can't answer specifically that question, but here's what we're overall doing.
Hey, Nate, it's a tokenized response. His response is a security, which means he should be
Yeah, so the clip that we pulled from is part of a 26-minute show by the Paul Bear Network. I watched the entire thing. They do a pretty good show from what I can tell, and they covered 2 other clips of Gary Gensler. In the other clips, Gary has a very similar response, which is that he kind of pushes it back on the host, where in the first clip, they ask him, like, yeah, you spend a lot of time focusing on crypto regulation. And he goes, no, I don't spend time on it. There's just so many scammers, and then you guys always ask me questions about it, which is why I end up spending time on it, because it's your fault. It's like, no, you actually are just dropping hand grenades in a room and then acting like we shouldn't notice.
Yeah. Like if you were dropping hand grenades in other financial markets, then we would notice that. But you're dropping the hand grenades in crypto. And it's funny because in that same interview, he's like, yes, you guys asked me to spend a lot of time on crypto, but it's a very small market share of the financial system. But it does represent an oversized amount of all the scams and the frauds and the whatevers. And I'm like, bro, like, come on, this same old song and dance again. Have you not looked at the on-chain data that disproves your claims about crypto?
He doesn't know what that is, Jay. Come on, he's not that smart.
I mean, what I don't understand is, well, I do understand, because if I was a member of if I was a member of the House Financial Services Committee, I would bring up that data. Like, hey man, how about this on-chain data that tracks transactions on the blockchain, telling us that there wasn't as much money from crypto that went into terrorist organizations that you said went to them. In fact, almost zero went to them. Well, let's not say zero, but certainly not to the degree that you described, right?
And plus, we have $2 billion that went over to Ukraine for something other than Ukraine.
So
it's chalk it up to the CIA black groups that totally don't exist and definitely will not hand out journalism awards.
100%. Absolutely.
That's neither here nor there. So there's 2 points as to why I pulled this clip for the show. Number one is it's to answer the big question, which is the Ethereum ETF going to be happening this year sometime? All the signs up to this point have previously been pointing to, yes, Bitcoin got cleared. That is a clear precedent for going towards it. There are similarities between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then also the fact that there are Ethereum futures that are available right now, and also Ethereum ETFs available in other countries. Everything is pointing towards Ethereum ETFs are happening. Then we see something like this, and we get the announcement from the SEC saying that Ethereum is a security, which is a complete reversal from all the other documentation and statements that we've gotten previously. They never outright came out and said that Ethereum, there was no public statement that Ethereum was not a security. However, we did get plenty of leaks of internal documents showing that Ethereum was not a security years ago. And since that point, the Ethereum Foundation has been decentralizing even more and trying to specifically not be a security. So when we have this data point saying not a security, effort showing even more not a security, then we get this random data point saying security.
Yeah.
It just seems logically inconsistent. And that gets me to my second point, which is that Gary Gensler has become walking logical inconsistencies.
Yes.
I'm not calling this a conspiracy theory, but if you don't want people to make conspiracy theories, you have to give legitimate reasons and show logical proof of how you arrived at your conclusions. Because what we're seeing, as I mentioned earlier, is we have 2018 Gary Gensler at MIT, and now we have 2024 Gary Gensler at the SEC, and they are completely different people. And the 2024 version is not making appeals to logic or actually making appeals showing a thought process of how they arrived at where they are. This is the kind of stuff that makes it really seem like Gary Gensler is just answering to someone else instead of creating his own ideas and then justifying them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, because here's the thing. I understand, like, oh, I can't presuppose or prejudge any one asset, right? Because the SEC, the chair is made up of 5 people, and it's not just me. So I completely understand that. But you obviously fall in the camp of you believe Ethereum is a security, so you can give a cohesive argument, right? A rational argument as to why you believe that is, right? Even if you say, look, this is just my personal opinion. Do not take this. But obviously, I know why he's not going to say that, because he's probably going to move the fucking market if he does. But you can't just keep falling back on, well, you know what? It passes every single part of the Howey test, right? You just can't keep giving that like token answer over and over again and expect people to take you seriously, right? We know what happened to the lawyers in the Coinbase case when they used that same argument with, I believe it was either Judge Falia or Judge Torres. It was one of those two gals, and she was like, "Bro, you're not gonna." Yes, yeah, and she was like, "Bro, you're not gonna use that argument against me. Don't give me the runaround of because it passes the Howey test. Give me some legitimate reasons as to why this particular asset passes every single metric of the Howey test." And they couldn't give any, right? And so I think Gary Gensler falls into that category. You ask him to explain what parts of the Howey test does this particular asset pass, that you feel the need to label every single asset besides Bitcoin as a security, and he's not going to be able to give that argument.
And then Gary just hops right on in like Samuel Jackson is like, I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. And that's how and then he drops the mic and then he walks away.
Will, you're hilarious.
Will's not wrong.
I don't think
it does seem very WWE.
Yeah, I really don't.
Here's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
I would be really interested to see is when he finally steps down, and who knows, maybe there's going to be a gag order on him.
He's going to super slam down.
Yeah, but like even before, even after he leaves, right? Maybe they place a gag order on him. But it would be really interesting to see once he does not have the label chairman of the SEC binding him. The ones like if he sits down for an interview, what somebody can pull from him, right? Like give us your actual thought process during the entirety of your run from 2022 all the way up until you left, probably sometime in 2026 when he leaves. Give us your thought process. And I would be very interested to watch that interview, to actually see him justify why he did the things that he did, bro. That would be an interesting show. I would want to watch that show.
He'll be on our show after he does that. we'll pull everything out.
I wish I had a miniature
message
table.
on Twitter.
What was that, Will?
I was just saying, I wish I had a miniature table so I could like show a picture or like demonstrate like him getting paid underneath the table or something like that.
Yeah. There's definitely, as Hex Hodl says, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But one thing we can all agree on is there's definitely a game being played here. So here's what we need to do. So we've had a lot of fun, just kind of shitting on Gary and kind of going through the stupidity of him.
Our favorite activity.
Blanket. Yeah, right. But blanket answering questions that have no don't answer any of the questions that were asked to him. How do we, all right, and I'll throw this question out for everybody here. How do we move forward? What's actionable here? Because we can sit here, we can speculate all day long, but how do you actually do something based on these speculations and based on the information given so far?
I got this.
Go for it.
Because
okay,
you go like this, and you go like this to anything that Gary Gensler has to say, and you just fucking carry that fuck on with whatever it is that you're doing. Come hell or high water. We're in the damn wild west of the crypto world. So like what's he gonna do? He can't do anything. And if he can, then go somewhere else where he can't. That's my 2 cents. For the audience at home, just fucking ignore it. Actually, that's probably pretty bad advice. Somebody else take this away from me. Yep.
Don't ignore it.
Here's how I'll deal with it, and it is steady as she goes, maintain course and speed. The decisions that I think everyone on this at the DGen Roundtable makes, and that we try to promote and teach and learn amongst ourselves, is that our strategies for our personal investments will not be dictated by the merits or demerits of one single man at the head of the SEC. Mm-hmm. Can it be an active detriment? Yes. Could it also help? Also, yes. At the same time, though, the ultimate responsibility falls onto us as investors, and we are responsible for making the changes to our portfolios and our allocation of assets as is required for the current situation on the ground and our vision of the future. So personally, what I've been doing is I focus on such a macro scale that these small things are just small things. They are blips on the radar. It is just noise that will come and go. Fortunately, he is messing with some things that do have the ability to affect the market overall. But at the same time, my strategy is circling around the 4-year Bitcoin cycle and also just stacking small wins over time cannot be derailed by this one person doing these things. So that is what I would say to this.
Yeah. And that's from an individual standpoint. Now, from a more macro standpoint, right? We've seen what actionable steps different companies and regulators have taken in order to fight, right? In the very beginning of this, like back in 2022, companies were fine just paying a fee, and they realized that that's not going to work. You can't unfortunately in this case, you can't just pay the fee and then the boogeyman goes away, right? Unfortunately, look what happened with Kraken. They paid a fee, and then SEC went back and says, we're going to fine you again. And so that's why now you have bigger companies like Coinbase, like Ripple, and now obviously Robinhood are taking a stand against this corrupt institution. And then you have people, like I said, you have a bipartisan agreement, at least so far within Congress, to fight against Gary Gensler and his band of misfits, right? Although it's probably unfair to label the entirety of the SEC with his lot, because it was a 3-2 decision for Bitcoin. So at the very least, we know we have some allies over there. For the Bitcoin ETFs, I meant it was a 3-2 decision.
Yeah.
To your point, go for it, Nate.
I just want to say, put my input as far as kind of like circling it back around, right? Where, yeah, actionable advice, right? So when you're looking at all this, you can definitely tell that there's a game being played. Do you know the game? No, you do not. But you can kind of speculate and figure out, all right, the more likely version of the game is going to be this, right? And then like what I do is I'll take the 3, if not 5 most likely scenarios based on speculation, and I will try and tell the future based on that, right? Because that's what we're here to do. Speculation is trying to tell the future. And so, and I will keep watching for more details, and then sometimes, you know, those can go up or down based on new information coming in. So what I'm doing right now is I'm simply saying, okay, they're definitely in a we're fighting you phase, okay? As Zenith said, steady as she goes. Keep up with your plan of DCing into the projects that you love, because I can promise you right now that these are going to continue to go up. There's not enough. There's too much on the back foot right now coming from Gary to be able to say, oh yeah, okay, so he's definitely going to affect something really bad. And as much as we like shitting on him, the poor guy is just getting wrecked over there on a consistent basis. And so we're here to enjoy it, but when it comes to the SEC, it's just it's too much. It's too much of them just constantly losing for us in the crypto sector to be like, oh no, the SEC said something, it's all going to zero. Like, no, it's like the SEC sent out another. Oh, they're gonna be seeing someone else in court. Oh, looks like we got another pump coming eventually here. It's like that's literally what that is. It's bullish at this point because they've been losing so often that this is just pure bullishness.
Yeah.
Nate, and Ty, you and Jay both had exact points I wanted to touch on here, which is that the SEC has been losing consistently. And like Jay talked about previously, a lot of people were happy just to pay a fine and settle outside the court with the SEC. But because the SEC has been losing so much, I think people have smelled blood in the water.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to admit that my view on this has changed over time. Because I remember it was almost a year ago when God, that's crazy to think about. It was almost a year ago when the SEC sued Richard Hart, or at least dropped the allegations. And I remember we covered a stream at that time, and we were trying to theorize whether or not Richard Hart was going to fight it. He was going to settle. And I was in the camp of settling because I thought at the time that, like, yes, what you do is you kind of pay the piper's fee and you get on with your way because you have much better things to do than fight the SEC. But as we've seen over the last year, I can't remember what yours was. Was it?
I said fight.
Sure it was fight.
I said fight.
Yeah. And the honest answer is that is the correct answer, especially now that we have hindsight looking back, which is that the SEC continues to lose, and they are the perfect example of broken window theory, which is that if you don't, it's why prosecutors want to have the super, super high prosecution rate, because once you start seeing like chinks in the armor and cracks in the window, so to speak, if you don't fix it immediately, more will show up, and it's going to encourage more and more. It is a amplification process. Because Gary tarnished the percentage of their win percentage, it has only gone down farther and farther more aggressively.
Yep. And like you said, people are starting to smell blood in the water, which is why a lot of other companies are starting to take arms up against them.
Everyone's willing to fight back at this point. Like 2-3 years ago, everyone would have been like, the SEC's coming at me. I guess I'm going to pay a fine. No, people are fighting and winning.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, Steve, right? Like back then, the accepted paradigm was, like you said, you pay the piper. The game is rigged, but at least it's rigged in a fair way, right? You pay the piper and then you go on as business as usual. But then it got to the point where it's like paying the fee is not enough. It got to the point, you guys know that old saying, you give them an inch and they take a mile. That's what happened with Gary and crew there, right? They stopped playing fairly. And what they started doing was they started taking miles and miles and miles and miles. And then at some point, these companies and our regulators were like, okay, no more, right? And to kind of close the loop on this whole thing, really what I want people to take into consideration is that, look, Gary and the SEC are going to be part of this game for, at the very least, the next 1.5 years more, right? So you have to accept the fact that they are part of the game we are playing, and they're going to affect some of the rules that we play by. So what do? Unfortunately, you can't really do it. You can't really do anything about it, and because the government is a slow-moving vehicle, and it's going to take some time to iron out all of these rules and regulations and for the litigations to play out. So you have to play within the boundaries that is set for you now, right? And so even though you might not be able to take him out of office, you know that when things go down, right, between a company, the SEC, or the regulators in the SEC, that it's going to affect the market in some way, right? And so you have to take that into consideration and then make your moves appropriately, because at the very least, for this moment in time, until he's out of office, he is going to affect the game that we are playing. So take that in consideration and act appropriately, right? You can't just bury it in your sand. And I know Will didn't mean, just ignore it, but you can't just bury your head in the sand and ignore it, because if you ignore it, then you're ignoring a very big player in the space in the game that we're playing. So,
well said. Well said. All right, boys, that is about it for the end of the show. We are going to go ahead and move to a wrap. So, Jay, where can the people find you, and what do you have going on? I think you have a project, something called the Ripped Table.
Yeah, so you can find me always on our Telegram. Go ahead and scan that QR code to the left of this little co-host box. That's where you can find me every day. That's where you're going to be able to catch the alpha before it drops here on the YouTube. As far as where you can find me in other places like X at _P90Hex, on Instagram at agent_J Schroth. As far as what we've got cooking in the near future, we've got our Whiskey Wednesday this coming Wednesday, so make sure to catch that. And then on next Friday, we have our next Fitness and Nutrition AMA. This was a request from our buddy Centurion. He's trying to get back into the gym, and so we are going to actually help him construct an appropriate beginner workout for himself. And I know there was a few other folks in the chat who chimed in who were very interested in that particular topic. So that's what me and Casey and the rest of the gang are going to be covering next Friday. So as always, thank you for those of you who are joining us here live, or for those of you who will be joining us on the replay. We know that time is your most valuable asset, and we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us this wonderful Sunday evening. Happy Mother's Day to the moms still watching, and we will catch you on the next time. Will, take it away, my friend.
Will, I'll go ahead and go, Will, since you're clearly doing link stuff.
Headset things, yes.
Headset things. Oh, no.
You're
All right,
good,
well,
Nate.
Back online.
I
All right.
won't talk then.
Go ahead.
So, yes, I am Nate McGinnett, the ascending man at the DJ Roundtable. And you can go ahead and find me at my link tree, which is bam right there. And I'm open to consultations right now. Basically, there's a lot of people, like, now is the time to be able to get in. You're going to be able to make like some massive gains here because the market is kind of down right now. And so I would say before the extreme euphoria that's going to be coming, which it's going to be too late at that point, now is the time you want to get in. Let me have a look at your portfolio. Let's go ahead and fix it up for you. Try and get it so that way you will actually be making gains. Are you going to get rich? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know.
No.
But but
Sorry.
you will be getting gains, and I can promise you right now, it's going to be a lot more than you could ever get out of the stock market. So, unless you're in Nvidia. but other than that, also I encourage everybody to run on over to the Forge NFTs, which I just dropped right down there. Go check that out, because Jeff has his project going on, which is a small step in the right direction to my overall vision that I may have hinted at earlier today. And Jeff actually kind of inspired me, along with the GIF guys and Access SolidX and all the rest of them, right? That whole index going on, that I'm starting to put pieces together that I think every single person here in this this network, the Pulse Chain Network, is going to be getting very rich and having a great life because of it. So yeah, go ahead, check that out, and then go support it. Like, write a little bit of a comment and just kind of say, hey, do you think this is important or not? Other than that, Will, can we hear you now?
Yes, and I can hear you guys. My headset always goes out at the best of times. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, I want to shout out, me and my brother made a cookbook. It is called the Tower Climbers Cookbook. As you guys might have heard, there's only 50 of them been printed ever in existence. And so I found serial number 42 and I wrote 69. So it is now serial number 69420. This is actually Nate and Mrs. Mageddit's copy right here. So I will be hand delivering that to them later on this year at some point. But if you guys want to get your very own cookbook, man, my mind just went blank there for a second. Then what you need to do is you need to go to Linktree/Will Stevenson. Control A, Control C. There we go. I can do copy and paste while talking. You need to go to Linktree/Will Stevenson, or click the link in the description. Or actually, no, it's in the chat. I'm setting it up in the chat. Go on over there, click on any of my socials, and send me a message saying, hey, I want one of these fancy schmancy cookbooks. And then I will either go and hand deliver it to you. If you really want me to do that, I will come find you wherever you are. I have a particular set of skills, and I'll come find you wherever you are and hand deliver it. And that will cost 10 dineros. If you guys want me to ship it to you, then that's no problem as well. I'm also going to go ahead and drop in the chats my my Pulse domain, so you guys can just find the public address on there for me. It is will.pls.fyi. I was very quick when the Pulse domains came out to get the 4-letter will domain, which I was quite pleased that I was able to grab that. So go to will.pulse.fyi, and then that will have a public address over there. You guys can send stable coins, you guys can send Pulse, you guys can send Ethereum, or I don't know, whatever. Just don't send me some stupid coin. Send me like a decent coin, for God's sakes. I prefer stables. Stables are nice. No, don't send me boob. Send me something that's worth 30 fucking bucks.
DRT.
Oh yeah, you guys can send
DRT.
me DRT. Yeah, if you guys want to send me DRT, then send me 69420 DRT, and we'll call it a fucking deal. So there we go. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
that is my favorite one. I do like DRT best of all. But yeah, unless you're gonna send me DRT, then send me $30 worth of a stable coin over there, and I will ship it to you. If you want me to hand deliver it, then just send me $10. Make sure that you guys send me a fucking message, right? Send me a message and like send me the transaction number, and send me like who you are and where I can like find you, or like mail this thing to.
I might actually do that, Will. I'll take you up on that. I'm going to buy some more DRT, and I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, there you go. Go buy some DRT and send it to me. Shoot, I guess I should drop the contract address for that in the chats. Oh man, I have to find. Man, I gotta
Easy.
find.
You
There's all
continue
sorts of-
talking. I got it.
Yeah, so go ahead and drop that contact address for DRT in the chats. But anyways, that's what's going on with my cookbook. As far as me, you guys can find me here on the DGen Roundtable. The Pulse Chain Conference is still going on, so go check that out right after this. If you guys are Hexkins and you want to meet other Hexkins, then what you need to do is you need to go to t.me/hex_meetup, and that will take you to my Hex Meetup or Meeting Hexikins Telegram. And what you could do in there is you just click on the little Start Here tab, and you follow the instructions. You read on through it, you figure out what you like in that place, you figure out where other people are, you give yourself a little introduction so that way other people know where to find you, what you like doing, and you can find people with similar hobbies and go hang out and meet up. But basically it's just a place for crypto degenerates to go and and organize their own little small scale meetups. That is all that I got. We will be covering Sci-Vive chapter 5 or 4. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5. Let me take a look at that again. Next week's book club, I'm going to be running the show, and we're going to be covering Sci-Vive chapter 5 Power. And you guys can find that over in our DGen book club Telegram, which I will go ahead and copy the link to and drop in the chats right now as well. You guys are going to get all the fancy chats today. So that's what I got. Zenith, why don't you go ahead and take us away, my friend?
Could I say one more
Alrighty.
thing?
Yeah, take it.
So I'm looking at the chart of iBurn, and when I was doing that stuff at the beginning,
the ARB
of the stream here, yeah, that was the literal bottom of iBurn. That's
Nice.
why.
Bottom.
That's why that was happening.
Congrats.
That's why I was getting so much out of it.
That's cool, bro.
It's
Hey,
luck,
Z.
man. It's pure luck.
Z, can you remind the people what important thing is happening next week that they might want to pay attention to that might pivot this entire fucking market?
Yes, we got a macroeconomic event next week, specifically on Wednesday. I want to say it's the 15th. Yes, it is. We have the CPI report, which is basically the inflation for the previous month. So it is May, so we will see how April turned out. And that could be a bit of a macroeconomic news event. The last one sure was when we jumped all the way up to, I want to say it was 3.7% inflation. We hit about 3% inflation about like 8-9 months ago. And then since then, we've been bouncing between like 3% and 3.7, 3.8%. Yeah. So it is nowhere near the 2% that we are supposed to be at. But then again, I think that they may have given up on that a long time ago and are just using it as a talking point. But that might be a little too tinfoil hat for this one. Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in. I am Zenith. You can find me at ZenithDI on Twitter and Instagram. I am currently following 69 people on Twitter, and I have 68 followers. So I am hoping to have a very excellent screen capture at some point here in the next few days. But whether that happens or not, it matters not, because we're going to continue to provide great information wherever possible. We probably already mentioned it, but the Wednesday stream coming up is going to be a Whiskey Wednesday, so we hope to see you guys there. If you want to jump in on the stream, hang out, ask questions, or just shoot the shit, please do. We love having you guys from the community come on the stream, and we've been having a lot more people, I guess, pop their streaming cherries, so to speak, and we love seeing new people on the camera and starting their own crypto streaming journey. I mean, shoot, that was all of us about a year ago, so we want to encourage more and more people to get into the space. Now's not a good time. Now's not a bad time to do that, by the way. So anyways, that is what we got going on. Like Jay said previously, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we thank you very much for spending it here with us. A final shout out to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to you. We know that you do a very, very important thing for society as a whole, and each and every one of those people in your lives. So thank you very much. And if you have not done so already, call your damn mom.
Yeah. Especially the MILFs.
Yep. All those
hey boy,
MILFs.
that's right, boys. It's Mother's Day. Call up them MILFs.
Shout out to all the MILFs out there.
Be in the good graces. All right, that is what we're going to do for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time, we would like to remind you to DGen responsibly.